was a Pew study a few weeks ago, that came out that said religious harassment and restrictions on religion is on the rise in the U.S. And the Wall Street Journal had a paragraph that said, in a study from the Pew Center released recently, government policies or social hostility were rated high or very high in 40% of the nations worldwide in 2015, up from 34% in 2014. So increasingly, one of the issues facing us in the world today is intolerance about religion. We have a wonderful panel here today, and I'm Will Norton from the Meek School, and I would like to begin with Professor Gershon and have him introduce himself and then come this way, okay?
Thank you, Dean Norton. Thanks for having us this morning as part of this panel. I feel honored to be here. My name is Richard Gershon, as the Dean said. I am a professor at the law school. I was fortunate to serve as the Dean of the law school from 2010 to 2015. And these issues, for me as a lawyer and for you as a journalist, are really very important issues. I will say this conference is about thinking beyond stereotypes. So I am here as part of the Jewish community. I certainly don't speak for the Jewish community. I speak for myself as an individual. And so, you know, it's easy to make some assumptions about what people think or what they believe, and I hope that maybe we can dispel some of those today.
Hi, my name is Katherine Levingston. I'm a sophomore here, and I'm from Clarksville, Mississippi. My major is international studies with a concentration in the Middle East. So I'm learning Arabic, and it's very interesting, and I'm learning a lot about the different religions and cultures. And like Dr. Gershon said, I'm speaking for myself, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much.
My name is Mahmoud A. ElSohly. I am a research professor at the National Center for Natural Products Research, which is part of the School of Pharmacy here at the university. I also work as a owner and lab director of a private company here in Oxford called ElSohly, my last name, Labs Incorporated. And I am the president of the Oxford Muslim Society. I am very delighted to be here today, and hopefully I will be able to take care of some of the issues that have come up with Muslims in this country and all over the world. Maybe I will, but anyways, I speak for myself again, just like other speakers. But also, I think I represent very well the Muslim community here in Oxford, and Muslims in general, not the ones that we don't want to represent, but certainly the majority of the Muslim people that are seeking nothing but peace and love, and so I represent those people. So I'm here today, and I hope I will be able to answer any questions you might have about our religion and what it stands for and so on.
I should tell you that my parents were missionaries. I was born in Africa. I lived in Africa till I was 8 years old. And when I came to the United States, when I was in Africa, we lived in a country that was basically a theocracy. It was a country that was controlled by another religious group. And our ministers would be beaten, our chapels would be burned, and my dad would write letters to the government, the provincial government in what was then Coquetteville. It's now Bandaka. It's at the fork of the Ubangi and Congo River. And he would write to the governor and say, you promised in 1885, all you colonial powers, that you would provide freedom of expression and freedom of religion. This is not freedom of religion. So from the time I was a little kid, even though my parents were conservative theologically, they were what now is known as evangelicals. In the old days, they were called fundamentalists. Because my parents were like that, even though they were like that, they always believed in freedom of expression. So for me, one of the big challenges has been dealing with evangelicals today who want to have a theocracy in America. I know what a theocracy is about. It doesn't allow a person to have real beliefs that they express and other people will tolerate it. So it's not real beliefs. If you say that you believe something because the government is forcing you to believe it, then that's not real beliefs. And so what we have is a major problem when major religious groups in America are pushing for one point of view, and that being the right point of view. What America was built on is the idea of freedom of expression. So what I want to ask each panelist, they must have some experiences similar to what I had as a child. One of the reasons why I'm for the First Amendment is because of what I grew up with as a child. And I would like each of the panelists, will go in the same order, to talk about the challenges that they have faced with their religious beliefs in the United States.
Well, and I'll start. I'm glad to address that. One of the challenges I think you have as a member of a minority religion is just it's not always convenient to practice your religion. For example, my children, our holidays typically fall during the work week because our holidays are based on the lunar calendar. So our New Year, Rosh Hashanah, our Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, are often on days when my children have to choose, do I miss that exam to celebrate the holiday, or do I miss my religious celebration to take the exam? And I had a friend when I was growing up say, you Jews are lucky because you get the Christian holidays and you get the Jewish holidays. And I said, well, that's true, but we get counted absent for the Jewish holidays. I have to make the work up. And you don't get counted for the Christian holidays. The calendar is set up that Christmas is always a day off, and I think it should be. That's the majority of people in this country celebrate it. Functionally, it wouldn't make sense for it not to be, but it's something I think people don't really think about. I was celebrating the Jewish New Year when I was in law school, and I had to miss a couple of days of law school classes. And one of my classmates said to me, "Well, why were you missing?" And I said, "Well, it's Rosh Hashanah, it's the Jewish New Year." And the student who was in law school looked at me and said, "But if you celebrate the New Year in September, when do you celebrate Christmas?" And so it's really kind of, I think some of it really is, we need to learn more about each other, and I think this is a good process to do that. So a lot of the challenges really are about the fact that things are scheduled. I had to do a bar swearing in ceremony on Rosh Hashanah. That really conflicted with things that were important to me, but that's when the Mississippi State Bar did its swearing in for new lawyers, and as dean, I needed to be there to introduce our new law students as members of the bar. And I actually sent a calendar to the bar after that of Jewish holidays because they had no clue. And so I think some of it falls on us. I mean, I grew up in Atlanta, and in Atlanta, there's a bigger Jewish population, so people knew a little bit more about our holidays. But I think part of the challenge, especially in a state like Mississippi where there's so few of us, is just education.
I would definitely agree with the whole education thing. And being a minority, and growing up in Clarksville, I didn't have a temple to go to every Friday night. So I went to Sunday school every Sunday in Memphis, which is about an hour and a half. And it was time consuming. It was a lot of gas. But in the end, it was worth it because I still was able to get my education. However, it was more inconvenient because I couldn't just roll out of bed and get there at 9:15, wake up at like 8:30. I had to wake up around 6:30, 7, and get out by 7:30. But so I guess that was definitely a challenge. And then being in school, I did have to miss exams and stuff. So that was never easy for me. And having to explain to my friends, it's always fun to get to tell them how I celebrate, and sometimes I'll invite them to a Hanukkah dinner or something so I can share that with them. So it's fun to get to explain it to your friends and celebrate with them and teach them something new, and have them teach you what they do. So I really enjoyed that, but sometimes it is a little difficult to explain because a lot of people really don't know what we do and how we celebrate. So sometimes there were difficulties with teachers having to explain, hey, I really cannot make it today to class.
Well, I echo the comments that were made along those lines. Of course, I am a Muslim, and our Muslim holidays are always, we also follow the lunar calendar. and which changes every year by 11 days from the regular calendar or 10 days, depends. So that, for example, the month of Ramadan, which is the month where we celebrate, we fast the whole month, not the whole month as one time, but from dawn to sunset, every day, no food, no drinks, no nothing. And of course, we still have to go to work. We carry a regular schedule and all of that, which is in back where I come from Egypt or in the Middle East. During that month of Ramadan, people are really given a break. You don't go to work till like maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, and then the day ends at 2 o'clock. Then you go home and maybe take a nap or something and get ready for preparing for the breaking of the fast at the end of the day. Also along the lines of the celebration of the religious holidays, they fall within the normal working days and so on. So we also have to make a choice between going to work or celebrating the occasion. In terms of actually practicing the religion, of course we can practice and pray at home, but it's really better if you find a mosque. And of course, I came to Oxford back in 1975, a long time ago. Almost all of you were not here when I came to Oxford. So we didn't have a mosque here. The university was very gracious. They gave us a room at the Y building, and we practiced there. We have our Sunday for you is our Friday. So we have a Friday prayer that is supposed to be a congregation prayer, and we did it in the Y building for a few years, and then finally in 1997 thereabouts, we built a mosque here in Oxford, which is located right next to the post office. At that time, 97, we really didn't have that many people. We had maybe 10, 12 people that would go to the mosque. Now on Friday prayer, we built a facility that's about 2,000 or so square feet or 2,500 square feet. And the prayer hall is like 1,000 square feet. And we used to be just a few people there. Now on Friday prayer and celebrating the feast, which follows the end of the month of Ramadan, and then another one which follows the pilgrimage, which is 70 days from the end of Ramadan. There's another celebration where you go to Mecca, you go to Saudi Arabia and do the pilgrimage and so on. We have that celebration in the mosque. Usually there is no space and no place now. We have so many people. Of course, I used to know everybody there in the beginning, but now we have so many students coming in. Of course, our community is very dynamic, changes all the time. Students come and go. And so I don't know, everyone in the mosque, but I know the ones that have been there for quite some time. So now, and I also, like her, used to take my kids to Memphis for Sunday, we call it Sunday school, but it's really just a Muslim religion teachings, but we do it Sunday because there's no other day for us to do that. And now I don't have to do this because, of course, my kids also grew up. Now my youngest is 32 years old. But for the grandchildren and other people in the community, we do this in the mosque right here in Oxford. So it's been but I have to tell you, I have really, really enjoyed every minute that I spent here in Oxford with the people in Oxford. I have never really felt like I'm a stranger. In the beginning, maybe because Oxford is such a more or less like an international community with a lot of students coming into the university, I never really felt like I'm out of place. But and people have treated us so kindly and so nicely that I just love being here. You can tell I have been here. I came in 75 with the idea that I'll be here for maybe a year or two postdoc position, and then I'll find a place somewhere else. And here you go. I'm still here, looking for that better place, which I haven't found yet. So I'm delighted to be here, and I hope to be able to answer some of your questions.
So we have an addition to our panel. Would you introduce yourself and then talk about some of the challenges you've faced?
Okay, I'm Adham Hagag. I'm a PhD student here at Ole Miss. I'm studying electrical engineering. I came here in 2010. I got my master's degree in telecommunication engineering in 2014, and now I'm studying for a PhD. I also teach electrical circuits for undergrads in mechanical engineering and electrical engineering. I am the president of the Muslim Student Association. I worked as the director of public relations for the Muslim Student Association, MSA, for 1 year, and then since 2014 I've been the president of the Muslim Student Association. What got me into the Muslim Student Association was that I wanted to clarify some of the misconceptions that my colleagues and other students on campus had about Muslims, not about Islam, but mainly about Muslims. Most people think of Muslims as just one group of people with the same looks, with the same traditions, with the same way of dressing, but that's completely wrong. So we come from all over the world, like Muslims come over from all over the world, and we dress in different ways. Even our worship place, the mosques, are different in their architecture, are different in the way they look. So I just wanted to give this, picture to the students on campus. That's why we had, during the 3 or 4 past years, we had held several events, social events, trying to introduce ourselves to the campus. Last year, we joined on the program called OpenMess, and it was a very successful program. We had a hijab day. We had a table outside the student union, and hijab is the veil, the scarf that Muslim women choose to wear or not wear, but many of them will choose to wear, and then covering their hair. And then we had a table outside the student union, and we just offered students, girls, to try this scarf, and it was very successful. So that's what got me into the MSA in the first place, trying to give a real image about the Muslims, about how the diversity, also showing the diversity within the Muslim people themselves.
If we could start with you or Dr. ElSohly, talking about what different groups there are. You have as many different groups as we have Christian denominations, but what are the major differences in the Islamic world, in the religious world of Islam? Without stereotyping, just give us a little bit of the different groups that we might need to know about to understand Islam's differences.
Go ahead and just talk about the Sunni and the Shiite, which is really the major, differences in our religion. Other than that, go ahead.
Yeah. So the main 2 groups are the Sunnis and the Shiites. So the Sunnis roughly make like 90% of the Muslims around the world, and the Shiites make roughly around 10%, and most of them live within Iran, Iraq, and some parts of Syria and Lebanon. The division started like 1400 years ago, and it started as a political division between both groups, and there are not very major religious differences, well, I would say minor religious differences between the 2 groups, because the division started as a political fight between both groups. But mainly the main concepts of Islam, both groups believe in the same concepts. Both groups believe in the same holy book, the Quran, in the same prophet, and in the same 5 pillars of Islam, which is prayer, fasting, pilgrimage, and giving alms, the zakah. So the major differences are still political differences. So these are the 2 main groups. But then within each group, there are different schools of understanding the teachings of Islam. And this is very common within any philosophical school or religion. So within Sunnis, there are different schools of understanding the teachings of Islam, and then within the Shiite world, there are different schools of understanding the Islamic teachings. But these are the main two groups within the Muslim world.
And if Katherine or Dr. Gershon would talk about the differences in the Jewish beliefs.
Well, starting off, the sect of Judaism that I practice is Reformed, and it is it's the most relaxed form of Judaism. You don't have to keep kosher, which are the laws of how you can eat. You go to Friday night services. You have everything, but you don't have to wear anything specific. Or the men and women are equal in the congregation. And another form is Orthodox, where when you go to services, the women have to sit in the back, and you have to have your knees covered and your shoulders covered, and preferably your elbows. But so it's stricter. It's highly encouraged to keep kosher, and you follow the rules very closely. Any others?
Yeah, and it's funny because I grew up in a conservative home, which is kind of in between. A lot of the Reform temples will have most of their services mostly in English. Conservative, it's part Hebrew and part English. So I had to learn Hebrew. I went to Hebrew school after school to learn Hebrew, and then in Orthodox synagogues, almost all Hebrew. And as Katherine mentioned, the men and women sit in different areas in the Orthodox community. My wife is Reform, and so I'm now Reform and very happy to be Reform. In terms of the kosher laws, so what that meant was, only certain meats. It's a lot like halal in a lot of ways. I mean, there's certain requirements for meat, and not mixing milk and meat. It comes right out of Leviticus, and so really Orthodox Jews will follow those rules. I'm vegan. You can't tell that by looking at me. Another stereotype that you wouldn't expect. So it really almost doesn't matter for vegans. I mean, I kind of think probably for me that made more sense dietarily than eating any meat. But that was just my choice, and that's not a religious choice as much as it is a personal choice. So the other thing I want to talk about is I think this is surprising for people. Is Jews come from all over the world too, and the fact is there are Sephardic Jews who came from Spain during the Inquisition. They were given the opportunity to die, convert, or leave. Many of them chose to leave, and they carried with them a lot of their Spanish traditions. My brother-in-law is Sephardic, and then there are Ashkenazic Jews, another big class, who come mostly from Eastern Europe, and they were the Jews in Poland and Germany and Russia and those parts of the world. That's where my family actually came to Atlanta and to Charleston, South Carolina from Russia. My mother was a third-generation South Carolinian, and I think a lot of people are surprised there's so many Jews in the South. But so it's kind of interesting because my brother-in-law's family, Sephardic Jews, have as their kind of common language besides Hebrew is Spanish, or a Spanish-based language called Ladino. It's really Spanish with Hebrew letters. And my father spoke a language called Yiddish, which was a German-based language with Hebrew letters. And that was so Eastern European Jews from Europe have kind of a different common language than Jews from Spain and Greece and a lot of Jews who have been in the Middle East for many, many years. And so that's kind of an interesting difference that a lot of people don't know about.
So none of you have really talked about, when you talked about the challenges, none of you have really talked about any time you've been bullied or mistreated. Have there been any such time? Let's start with you, Ed.
No, personally, I haven't been. Maybe I remember like one event, I think it was 2013. We were celebrating our feast, one of our two feasts, and we had posters around the campus, and then one of them was in the student union when we had the student union. So one of them was in the student union, and then one day we found it just torn apart. And then, but this the other organizations on campus, other department on campus, they supported us, and we had a very successful event. So I don't think I've personally been bullied on campus. But of course, there are some experiences of Muslim girls and ladies on campus, microaggression, I would say. Very, very little incidents, or very few incidents in the 6 or 7 years I've been here. But personally, I haven't experienced any bullying. I have heard from female members of our student association, 1 or 2 times only. So I would say it's very rare for Muslims to be bullied on campus, on this campus. It's been a very friendly campus for Muslims all the time I've been here. I've heard of 1 or 2 instances in the 6 or 7 past years. So this is a very good thing that I think of.
Dr. ElSohly.
I might add just, when 9/11 happened a few years ago, I was, of course I had been here for so long before that time, but I was really amazed at the compassion and the love and the care that the Oxford community have given me and my family during that time. I got so many phone calls at home. Dr. ElSohly, if you need a place to stay, of course everybody was expecting that there's going to be an outrage against the Muslims in this country, and maybe, maybe for a reason, but nonetheless, it really didn't happen here. People offered their homes, to protect me and my family from any bullying or any, acts of violence. And of course, I told them, I really appreciate it very much. I have been in Oxford for so many years. People know me. I know the people. And but I had my eyes open for what's going on around me and around the community, and really the maximum that I would say that would come even close to being bullied is some of the ladies, especially the ladies, because they are easily identified as being Muslims. Like maybe somebody in passing, go home, or something like that. Nothing really that I would say bullying, but some comments that are not kind. But I wouldn't consider that as bullying. It was just expression of free expression, I should say. But anyways, I don't think we have really seen anything of the sort that you would have expected. And I think most of our problems as Muslims in this country don't come from other religion. They come from our other Muslims who are not acting in the way they should act, who are not really representing the religion the way they should represent. They are pretending they are doing whatever it is they are doing in the name of Islam, which their actions have nothing to do with what the religion actually calls for.
Dr. ElSohly, could you explain a little more about that? Because the people I talk to say that what a lot of the conflict that exists in the world today has to do with internal conflict within Islam. Would you agree with that? And would you, or do you think that's not an accurate?
Well, I think in a way I agree, because those people that are acting with tremendous violence in the name of Islam make it more difficult for the regular Muslims to live their lives the normal way. And if you really look at these people and what they are doing, they're hurting more Muslims than any other religion. They're hurting, but then they do it like they want Islam to spread, and they want Islam to be represented in a better way. What a way to represent the religion. It's a terrible way to represent the religion. When if you read in the Quran and our teachings, it is peace. When we enter anywhere or we greet each other, we say Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum is an Arabic word meaning may peace be upon you. And your answer, this is our hi, is Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. And your answer would be, and peace be upon you too. Wa alaikum assalam. So our religion invites and teaches peace, teaches love, and teaches we need to be speaking about our religion and spreading our religion teachings by example. And what kind of example are we giving when we go bomb this and bomb that and kill these people and kill that people for no reason? No reason. So I think these people are the ones that are really causing the troubles everywhere. And I just ask Almighty God to, give him guidance and put him in the right path. But there is a good reason why people think that's the reason for the conflicts here and there.
Katherine.
I've been very fortunate here. No one has personally bullied me here at the university. However, earlier this year, someone traced a swastika on an elevator door. And while that wasn't towards me, it was towards our Jewish community. And as president of Hillel, my board and I released a statement, and it was very successful. Many people shared it, liked it. We just were surrounded with a lot of love and support. So that was really amazing. I guess my friends sometimes will joke about me being cheap and just really kind of stupid stereotypes about me being having a big nose or something. But I guess in high school, once I was bullied, I was at a leather market trying to get a price down on a jacket that I wanted, and the vendor rolled his eyes and was like, "I'm from New York. I deal with people like you all the time." And I wasn't really sure what he meant. I was like, "I'm sorry," and he was like, I was wearing my Star of David, and he was like, "You're Jewish. I know how you people are," and I had never experienced anything like that, and thankfully I haven't again. But it was very shocking and just kind of draining. I felt very empty, and I just didn't want to buy it from him anymore, obviously. So I just left, and I got upset. I was like, "You don't know me," and whatever. And then I just walked out because I wasn't going to support his business.
I think for me, actually, I've always been pretty accepted and feel very lucky. Certainly welcomed in Oxford. We've got a growing Jewish community that has been supported a lot by the non-Jewish community. I mean, really, people are kind of interested and excited and want to know more. And so, but there are a couple of times, and usually, it's like Katherine's incident, or any incident that people have faced. It's usually one individual who is just a jerk, and they're a jerk to everybody, and that tends to be the case. When I was in college, I was at the University of Georgia, I was in a Jewish fraternity, and there were Jewish fraternities because we were not invited to be parts of the other fraternities. So that's changed a lot. I mean, I think lawyers have had a lot to do with that. I like to take credit as a lawyer. Lawyers are stereotyped too, so I want to say something good about lawyers as well, and that is, your cars are safer because of lawyers, right? There wouldn't be airbags if there weren't lawyers. There wouldn't be safety belts if there weren't lawyers, because the car companies wouldn't do that. So, I do appreciate the law. And the reason I say that is my father's experience as a Jew was much different than mine has been. He went to medical school at Emory Medical School at a time when there was a set quota that they would only admit at most 3 Jews. Set quota. So, those quotas are changed. They're gone. He came back from fighting in World War II on a Pacific island, came back having been a frontline doctor there, and faced signs that said no Jews or dogs allowed on hotels. Now, implicit in all of that too was, of course, at that point, this was a segregated country to a large extent, so people of color certainly weren't allowed. That was those things have changed. It's gotten better. But the one experience that I faced in college, again, just a bunch of jerks, really. We were in a Jewish fraternity. We were next door to a couple of other fraternities that weren't Jewish. And one of those fraternities was shooting off fireworks, and we came out to watch. And some of the members of one of the fraternities started saying, "Here come the Jews. Go back to the gas chambers, Jews." Which was, it was horrible, but they were idiots. Interestingly enough, and as almost always happens, the other fraternity, non-Jewish fraternity, stood side by side with us. Against those guys. And that's usually what happens. So for every jerk, there are 10 good people. And that's what keeps me, optimistic always as a human being.
Let's take just a few minutes to talk about the joys that you've experienced because of your religious views.
So I would say, like I would add to what Dr. Mahmoud A said. So Islam is actually a religion of mercy and peace. That's why when we greet somebody, our greeting is peace be upon you. So mercy and peace, these are the main teachings of Islam. So these are some of the joys that I've enjoyed, like being a Muslim and actually teaching other Muslims that people should treat each other with mercy and compassion. Actually, the first verse of Quran, which is the holy book for Muslims, starts with "In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate." So, compassion and mercy are two of the main teachings of Islam, and teaching other Muslims and also practicing this with other Muslims and not only within like Muslim to a Muslim, Muslim to any, not only humans actually, humans and every living creature. This has been a joy. Also peace. So it's peace between a Muslim and all other living creatures, whether human or non-human, and within like a peace with me, myself, in myself. Peace with I appreciate what God have actually gifted me with, and if you go through a difficult time or calamity or some problems, you feel peace while you're going through this difficult time, knowing that God would be there helping you at the end. So this have been some teachings of Islam that I have enjoyed as a Muslim. Yeah.
You want me to add more to that? Okay. Well, I think the joys that I get are actually from the teachings that the religion gives us, and the stories that you read and you listen to about how our Prophet, peace be upon him, has handled himself and has dealt with the people of that era when he was, among the Muslims. And I just tell you, a quick story about how the religion, how our Prophet handled himself and taught the people again by example. He had, during that time, there was, Jews and other non-believers, around that were more or less, fighting this new religion that was coming in. And the Prophet was living, somewhere, and he had a neighbor of another faith that just didn't like the fact that he's living next to what's called the Prophet for the Muslims. So every day he would go and take his garbage and put it in front of the door of our Prophet. And our Prophet would take the garbage and put it away and so on. Every day. Then one day, the Prophet comes out and there was no garbage. So he really wondered what's going on with so-and-so. So he went to his house and he knocked on the door. Is Mr. So-and-so okay? They say, why you ask? Well, I don't see the garbage anymore. He must be, is he sick? Or it turned out the guy was actually sick, so he couldn't take the garbage out. And he did, whatever he can do to help and so on. But this guy actually, in the story that was told, this guy actually turned out, changed his religion and became a Muslim because of how peaceful the Prophet was and how understanding and how compassionate he was. It's okay, so if you don't like me and you do something to me, so long as you're not hurting me physically, it's okay. It's okay for you to believe that I'm a bad guy, so long as you don't try to hurt me. But if you try to hurt me, then I am going to fight you back, which is a normal thing. But I'm not going to. Our religion teaches us not to fight anybody or not to hurt anybody unless they fight you for your religion. If somebody comes to you and say, I'm going to kill you if you don't change your religion, then you are okay to fight back, and even if you had to kill that person. But other than that, not just because somebody from a different religion or from a different faith or different beliefs, whatever they are, then we fight them and we try to force them to take our, that's not our religion. So I think I take joy out of those stories that I read about the behavior and the compassion of our prophet and our religion. So we are not what the media and those other people that are doing those terrible things are doing in the name of Islam. That's not Islam at all. Has nothing to do with Islam. So.
One thing I really enjoy about being Jewish is very similarly the teachings. Going to Sunday school, the main things we learned from the stories and the teachings is just to be kind and to be a good person. I remember my rabbi asked us. He asked us, "What do your parents want you to be?" And they said, "Successful, nice." I mean, it was like successful, smart, or good. And we were, spouting off our answers and everything, but the answer was good because you should be accepting of all people and kind to everybody wherever you are. It doesn't matter who they are, and that's something I've always appreciated. It's just the acceptance of it, and then I love the community. A quick story: once I was in High Point on the square doing some homework this summer. I was in a summer class, and someone came up to me and she sat down. She goes, "Okay, you're gonna think I'm crazy, but I see you're Jewish. So am I. What's your name?" We got to talking and everything, and she and her family invited me to their house for dinner. Cooked my parents and I a lovely dinner and everything, and we became friends, and we still keep up today. And it's just a special community that is just extremely valuable.
Yeah, and I want to echo that and extend it to family too. I think like most religions, I mean, our holidays are really times for families get together, to experience things, and so we focus on our differences here. But I mean, there's so many similarities. We start with rituals when someone's born. We start with rituals when somebody's married, reaches a certain age. My family and I went to a bat mitzvah this weekend in Atlanta. My nephew's daughter, I can't believe I'm old enough that my nephew's daughter is being bat mitzvah, but that's what happened. And so, it's just, but what's important is that's a rite of passage, but it's also a time for family to get together and just, from wherever they are and come together and celebrate. Our holidays are that way too. And one of the exciting things that happened in this community recently was we had a community Seder and 80 people came, and there was members of Hillel, and Seder is just the celebration of Passover, which is really a holiday of freedom and religious freedom. If I can tell a quick story about how we talk about differences. First of all, we say Shalom Aleichem, very similar to Aleichem Salam. Did I say that correctly? I hope so.
Yes.
Our languages are almost, are so similar that when I hear Arabic, I hear a lot of Hebrew too. But I was asked to do a baccalaureate service when I was teaching at Stetson Law School, which was a Baptist law school, and our students wanted to have a baccalaureate service, but they wanted to be inclusive, and so they had members of different religious organizations come and talk to the students at that service. It was a Friday night. Rabbis work on a Friday night. I don't, so they asked me if I would represent the Jewish community, and I did. And I was all prepared to tell a story about how our Rabbi Hillel was asked to teach the law standing on one foot, and he said, love your neighbor as yourself, the rest is just commentary, go teach the law. Well, the Baptist preacher stood up first and said, the Lord was asked to teach the law standing on one foot. And I thought, oh hell, I'm screwed here, because he just took my story, now what am I going to do? But it also showed how similar our thinking was. It's about love your neighbor as yourself and all those teachings. So I said something in Hebrew, and I said, I'm going to say something to the group in Hebrew. It's going to sound totally foreign, and you're going to maybe push back on it a little bit. But when I translate it, it's something you all probably say in some way, shape, or form, and that's Yevarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha, which is, may the Lord bless you and keep you. It's a prayer that I think we say in many religious contexts, and that our commonalities are what we ought to focus on and not our differences.
we don't have time for questions, so you're going to hand out some things.